since you've clicked on this thumbnail, I have a idea and assumption that you are probably interested in buying a house, but you do have significant questions in your mind whether you should actually go for this decision or whether you should hold back and stay in a rented property. Significant portion, and that is called the financial portion of this decision, right? And we will understand that the rents of different houses in our country are actually quite variable. If you are talking about Mumbai, the rents are at rents are very, very high. It's very expensive. And if you talk about cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, or Ahmedabad, the rents are quite expensive. Right, so you will have to spare, sometimes you will have to spare 70,000-80,000 only for a 2 BHK apartment, right? So this is very, very expensive proposition if you think in terms of renting a property. And secondly, I would just like to talk about a scenario. Suppose there's a person called Ramesh who wishes to stay in a rented property, and the property that he has selected is probably the value of the property in market terms is probably 50 lakhs, right? So he will have to spare a rent around 25,000. 25,000 is something which you will probably give to most of the properties of our country. So he will have to spend around 25,000 per month for the rents of this property. So 25,000 per month, that becomes 3 lakh per year, right? So that becomes 3 lakh per year, and this 3 lakh is something which he has to spend as a rent for his entire year. This is one factor, number one. And if he's a salaried person, if he's placed in that 30% tax bracket, he will basically be getting back a notional tax gain, and that's almost 30% of the 3 lakh that he has paid as a rent will be access to the income tax benefits, right? So that becomes 90,000. So virtually the effective rent that he will be giving for this 50 lakhs property would be 2 lakhs 10,000. This is 2 lakhs 10,000, right? And now let us come back to a situation when he actually wishes to buy this property. If he thinks of, if he decides to buy this property, what will be the calculations look like? First of all, if it's a property of 50 lakhs, we will assume that he will be able to procure at least 10 lakhs for the down payment from different sources where he has put in his investment. So he will liquidate all his money from different sources, and he will actually pay for the down payment, and that is 10 lakhs for the entire property. And the bankers would come in with an 80% collateralized loans for the home loans, and he will be funded the rest of the 40 lakhs from the banks, right? So and in today's times, we will understand, we will find out that the interest rates are hovering around 7% per year. So with this calculation in mind, we will have to understand that if he takes a home loan of around 40 lakhs for a time span of 20 years, we will find out if he takes a home loan of 40 lakhs for a time span of 20 years with an interest rate of 7%, he will have to go for an EMI, monthly EMI of around 31,012, right? So 31,000. So take it as a gross figure of 31,000. So the EMI that he will have to incur, that he will have to pay for this property is 31,000 per month, right? So the total interest that he is likely to pay for this property throughout the entire loan tenure, if we take into consideration that these loans, the interest rates of this loan is not going to alter much, so he will have to probably pay back 34 lakhs as the interest component of this loan. So his original loan is 40 lakhs, so he will have to, throughout the entire span of 20 years, he will have to pay back an interest of around 34 lakhs 42,870. So the total payment that he will have to make to the bank throughout this tenure of 20 years is 74 lakhs 74 4,42,000 and 870. So in the initial years, your monthly EMI actually, your monthly EMI is divided in between two components. The first component is the interest component, the interest that you pay for the entire loan amount, and secondly, the second component that you pay for this loan is called the principal component. So the interest component is much higher during the initial years of your loan, and the principal component is significantly lower in the initial years, and that is exactly the reason why you will find out that once you go with this loan, after 10 years the interest component and the principal component is likely to become the same. If in the very first year he will have to pay back an interest of, with this particular interest rate, with this particular case study, we will find out that he will have to pay back an interest of 1,39,323. 1,39,323. That's the amount that he will have to pay back as an interest, only as an interest of this loan, right? So interest is something which is basically being deducted from the component, from the entire EMI, and the rest of the component is served for deducting the principal amount. So what the scenario happens is that, first of all, you will have to take into consideration that he has made a down payment of 10 lakhs. So had he not purchased the house, he would have definitely kept this 10 lakhs somewhere, and I would assume that he would have kept this 10 lakhs somewhere in the banks, in some secure assets, in some secure FDs. So he would have earned back 6% of this entire amount. So that becomes 60,000 for the entire year. So he is basically making a loss, a kind of notional loss of 60,000, since he has already made the down payment for the 10 lakhs. So after 1 year, he is making a notional loss of 60,000 for the 10 lakh which he has already invested in the property. And for the interest component, he is being forced to give around 1,39,000. So if you calculate these two components, it comes to around 2 lakhs. So he's virtually paying 2 lakhs for the interest as well as the notional loss that he will have to take for in making an investment into the property. And I'm taking into consideration that this is the first year, and as he proceeds with this loan, as he proceeds with this with this home loan, we will find out that in the second year the interest component is significantly lower than the first year, because in the second year the principal component gradually increases. So, and in the third year it will be much lesser than the second year. This is how the the interest calculations actually operate. So in the first year he will be making the maximum loss from this home loan, and as he proceeds with this home loan, his interest components will drastically go down, and because his principal components are being deducted gradually, so his interest component would significantly go down, and his principal component from the entire EMI would significantly be increased. So in the very first year, he is basically paying back to the bank 1,39,000, and he is basically losing, because of his down payment, he is losing 60,000. I won't assume that he has invested this money in somewhere in equity market, in some mutual funds or in shares, because these are some components, these are instruments which has a risk of its own. So it is not possible to gain securely 10%, 12%, but in the long run they may provide you a return of around 15 to 20%. Same person who enjoys the benefit, income tax benefit, and if you calculate the income tax benefit over it, he will earn back some of the privileges that are applicable for the interest components of the home loans. So that is a significant portion, because he belongs to the 30% tax bracket. So he will earn back almost 30% from his 1,40,000. So he is basically earning enjoying a tax benefit of 42,000. His virtual interest component comes around 1 lakh, a little less than 1 lakh, and he has lost because of his initial down payment. He has been losing 60,000 per year, right? So this is how the scenario looks like. So his virtual loss is 1,60,000 because of the property which he wishes to purchase. And had he stayed in a rented property, his rent outgo would have been much higher than this calculation. So standing at the present scenario with a home loan ranging from 6.50 to 7%, I will assume it is always better to go for the purchasing decision. It is always better to by any calculations you will understand that it is always good to buy a house right now instead of staying in a rented property. Then again, the critics would, several of the financial advisors would point you out that if had you invested this 50 lakhs in some equity oriented instrument, you would have earned this much of amount in 20 years. But that is not true. That is a faulty hypothesis, because it is not possible for you to invest this much amount, the entire amount of the house right now, because this is the money which you are likely to earn in the next few years. The money is not staying with you right now. So the money which you can invest right now is just 10 lakhs. It's 10 lakhs. If you invest this money, 10 lakhs, somewhere in some equity oriented instruments, in some mutual funds or in some stocks, definitely you may earn a greater return than this 6-7%. Greater return. But in the long term, from a long term perspective, that sounds very viable. But owning a house is something which you have to consider as a necessity. Even if you don't own a house, you need to have a shelter of your own. You need to have a roof, over your head. So either you purchase a property or you stay in some rented property. You stay in someone else's property and give your rents to that person. And secondly, we'll have to understand the fact there is another implication to this. The property owner will always come back to you after 1 year. And there is, enough evidences for us to believe that your rent yield is going to get, higher. It is not going to get down with time. But with home loan, what happens is that you are basically paying an interest on a smaller amount. Gradually, your principal component is getting reduced, and you are paying an home loan on a much smaller amount than the loan which you have originally taken, So your amount gets deducted. Means your amount gets deducted. The principal component gets deducted significantly, and you enjoy the benefit of an interest payment on a much decreased amount of principal than what you have originally taken. But on the other hand, in case of a rented property, what you need to do is that you are paying a rent of around 25,000 for this year, and once the rent agreement will be renewed by the property owner, you will find out that there's an increase of around 5%, 5 to 10%, and then again on the very next year, we'll find out that there will be another hike for your rent, and that will have a compound effect on your rental money that you are rental obligations that you are supposed to pay back to the property owner. So your rents would get increased with a compounding effect, with a snowball effect. But on the other hand, your home loan would virtually go down with time, and the interest components that you will be paying for this home loan will be significantly lower than the interest component which you have paid when you have taken the loan initially in the very first year. So this is exactly the reason why I have just shown you with this example, with this case study, that it is always better to go for, it is always better to purchase a house. But when should actually you be going for this decision? That depends on your own financial position. That becomes on several other factors that we will be talking about in our next video.